Good morning and welcome to Sportuccino. I'm Richard Parr and we are live on Monday the 9th of January. I know we've been away for 3 weeks, but it's great to be back talking to you live on Facebook, live on YouTube and live on Periscope. There's so much to talk about over this weekend's football and everything to do with the Premier League, La Liga, the FA Cup. So much to cover, transfer rumours. Get involved on the conversation on Facebook, on Periscope and on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. And today we're going to be talking to a top former Premier League referee. If you've got any questions for him, he's coming up on the show in just a few minutes. Send those questions in. We'd love to hear from you. All right, let's start the day with our morning sports headlines. Liverpool's youngest ever team draw 0-0 at home to League 2 Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup. Chelsea to appeal John Terry's red cards in the 4-1 win over Peterborough. A late Lionel Messi goal earns Barcelona a 1-1 draw at Villarreal in La Liga. And the Green Bay Packers beat the New York Giants 38-13 in the NFC wildcard game. If you'd like to support our show, it's really easy. Just go to sportuccino.com and take a look at our merchandise. We've got lots of things there, from mugs to t-shirts to hoodies. Check that out. That will really help support our show. That's sportuccino.com. Well, as well as being live on Facebook, YouTube and on Periscope, we like to further the conversation on our Twitter page at Sportuccino. And we like to do that with a daily poll. So let's have a look at what happened in our last poll. We wanted to know who will win on Sunday between Manchester City and Arsenal. Yes, it's been that long since we've been on the air when Manchester City faced Arsenal, and 53% of you thought Arsenal would win, but 47% of you were right because Manchester City beat Arsenal 2-1 in that fixture. If you predicted that correctly, congratulations to you. Let's have a look at today's poll. And we're asking, did John Terry deserve to be sent off for Chelsea in their FA Cup win over Peterborough? Chelsea now say they're going to appeal that red card. What did you make of it? What did you think? Was he the last man? Was it a deliberate foul? Let's get your thoughts on all of that on Sportuccino. Well, the FA Cup fourth round draw takes place later today at 19 GMT. But before that, FIFA will announce their World Player of the Year. It's between Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi and Antoine Griezmann. So let's have a look at how they did this weekend in La Liga. Well, Ronaldo was on the score sheet as Real Madrid beat Granada 5-0. Real have now equalled Barcelona's Spanish record of 39 games unbeaten in all competitions. Isco also got a double there. While Antoine Griezmann, he got his first league goal for Atletico Madrid since October in their 2-0 win at Eibar. Sevilla, they were 4-0 winners at Real Sociedad. Ben Yedder with a hat-trick. Sociedad had actually been unbeaten at home since their loss to Real Madrid on the opening day of the season. And a late Lionel Messi free kick gave Barca a point at Villarreal in their 1-1 draw. Over in Serie, Napoli beat Sampdoria 2-1. Roma needed an own goal from Izzo to give them a win over Genoa. Lazio got a 90th minute winner through Ciro Immobile to beat Crotone, and Juventus, the league leaders, won 3-0 against Bologna. Higuain with 2 goals for Juve. Real, of course, now lead the Spanish league by 5 points. What did you make of that, people? Get involved in the conversation on Periscope. Now, I've mentioned some of our social media platforms, and one of them we're on is on Instagram. And what we're going to start to be doing is every single morning bring you a little bit of statistical information, a little bit of history, maybe a fact which you don't remember or didn't know about. I'm going to put that on our Instagram page every single morning. Let's have a look at today's Insta stat.
Mark Clattenburg is the first official to referee in 1 year the FA Cup final, the UEFA Champions League final and the European Championships final.
Well, what did you make of that statistic? Mark Clattenburg, the first referee in 1 season to referee the FA Cup final, the Champions League final and the Euros final. What did you make of that? Let me get your thoughts. And we're going to get more on everything to do with refereeing with our guest this morning. It's the former Premier League referee, Keith Hackett. I'm delighted he can now join us live on Skype. Keith, thank you so much. How are you doing this morning?
I'm fine. I've read some of the newspapers and watched a little bit of television, believe it or not, this early hour. We have to be quick with our own website, youaretheref.com. And so we start to go in the studio ourselves in a few hours' time. So it's about preparation, really. I think you're aware of that.
Yeah, definitely understand all about that. What's been the big refereeing story for you this weekend, Keith?
Well, I think it's two. I think, obviously, the John Terry send-off, that's created a lot of debate. And then watching closely Mike Dean. He'd had two very indifferent performances, and the last one involved a red card turnover. I said straight away he'd got it wrong. The FA supported that by actually not suspending the player involved. So this week, going into Tottenham, the Tottenham Aston Villa game, I think Mike looked tentative in the first 15 minutes. There was a terrific opportunity to apply an advantage. Lacking in confidence, he didn't do that. But slowly, as the game evolved, it was quite an easy game to officiate. But I'm sure he's got his confidence back, and that augurs well.
Yeah, there were comments from Mark Housey saying that he can be a little bit arrogant. What do you make of that?
I can tell you, away from the field, he's a really nice guy. A bit of a joker, and certainly when I managed him, with no difficulty whatsoever, he just put in the effort, put in the work. There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, and I do think that at times Mike just wants to watch himself with his body language, because it does emit the wrong messages. It does emit this... I'm a little bit arrogant, and I don't think you can have that in a referee.
Okay. There was also a story at the end of last week talking about Mark Clattenburg getting an MBE, and there were comments from Jermaine Gina saying that he didn't deserve to be an MBE. What were your thoughts on that, Keith?
I think it's always amazing how government make these selections. I think in the case of Mark, it's probably premature, but I think... what surprised us was, and probably generated the comment, was the fact that Sean Massey, who in fact is only a few years into officiating, but had got to Premier League standard as an assistant referee, was in fact awarded the MBE. So I think it was from that there was this debate as to how do these people achieve the MBE, who does the selection, and why her ahead of someone like Clattenburg.
Would you say Clattenburg's the best referee in England right now?
I think Clattenburg is the best referee in the world. I think that is underpinned by the fact that a couple of weeks ago he was presented with the Referee of the Year, with the world's #1 title out in Dubai. So I think that within the game, within the sport, around the world, he is recognised as the #1. I know him really well. He's a guy who works extremely hard at his performances. He's probably the fittest referee around. That gets him into the right places. It reduces his risk of getting mistakes, or reducing the number of mistakes he makes. Gets the right viewing angle. All part of, if you like, the refereeing performance. But on average, he'll put in about 11,500 to 12,000 metres in a game. So he does a lot of running, that gets him in the right places, and that helps him with his decision making.
Would you say for any young referees wanting to get to that elite level, that's the main thing they need to look at, the fitness levels? Or is there anything else in Mark's refereeing that you think young referees can learn from?
I think there's lots of facets to his performance. I think young referees can, perhaps they don't see the work off the field that he does. He's terrifically concentrated. He works extremely hard at his fitness levels. But then so do lots of referees. That's, if you like, a foundation. They've got to be able to cover 11,500 metres comfortably. They've got to do 1,000 metres within that at 7 metres per second. Sorry to get technical, but this is the sort of information that sports science gives us in order to build a referee and build a referee's performance. But it's decision making as well. You've got to have the courage to make the big calls, which Clattenburg and Dean do without any hesitation. And hopefully when they're making those big decisions, get most of them right. That's the important bit.
Well, sports science has clearly helped football in all kinds of facets from the players and from the referees. What are your thoughts on technology, Keith? Obviously, at the FIFA Club World Cup, there were the video referee, the video replay system trialed. We've also had other forms of technology on this show. We've had a Ref Watch showcase, and we've looked at that. What are your thoughts on technology, and where do you think it should be going with referees?
I'm 100% behind technology. I mean, I can proudly sit and say I'm the guy that introduced the communication kits into refereeing. I just saw what was happening in rugby union and followed their sort of regime and introduced the same equipment. I think that was a major boost at that particular time. I was asked some years ago by the owners of the Premier League clubs, when I was the boss of the referees, what would I like to see? I said goal line technology. It took us 6 years to get there, but mainly that was because of the difficulties of getting through the IFAB, or the people who are responsible for the laws of the game, and then, of course, FIFA. That's been a huge boost. I mean, we only see it at the very elite level of the game. But, you know, in over Christmas, it was used 3 times, and it was successful 3 times. So now we come to the next stage, and I'm a massive supporter of the video assistant referee. But with it, I have 2 concerns. The first concern is, who's going to be the video assistant referee? What is his competence levels? Because he's going to be transmitting major decisions to the referee. So he's got to be absolutely experienced. He's got to be have all the technology in front of him. I don't see a referee going to the side of the pitch and having a look at a DVD screen or a video screen. I don't see that at all. I see a man like rugby sat in a room. In front of him is a bank of television cameras, screens, with delayed transmission. He can then look at it several times and go straight to the referee and say, that's a penalty kick, that's not a penalty kick. That's a red card, it's not a red card. And I think that we build the menu, if you like, as we build the confidence. Are we capable of making the right calls and getting them 100%? I feel that we are, and I think we're moving in that direction. Why it's got to take 2 years of testing is beyond me, because I do know, having spoken to the people who provided the equipment to the Dutch referees and spoken to a number of Dutch referees, they welcome it tomorrow. And if they're saying it, then I think that follows through, that it's a good piece of equipment for us to bring on board.
Let's talk quickly about what happened over the weekend. John Terry given a red card in Chelsea's 4-1 win over Peterborough, Keith. What did you make of that? Was that a red card sending off for you?
Yes, it was. And really, just to inform your listeners and viewers, the criteria is this. First, was it a foul? And the answer is it was a foul. John Terry went to ground in order to bring the player down, so it was a foul. Now, what the referee's got to look at is distance from goal. There's some distance, admittedly, but the player was moving at pace. So distance is okay. Would there be any chance of a defender coming in? the defender was far side of the penalty box, coming into the penalty area, I don't think he would have done that. And then, of course, the player's probability to control the ball. In coaching referees, what we say is take away John Terry. Take away, if you like, that foul. Think about the player. If he'd not been fouled, would he have gone on and had a shot and goal? The answer to me, yes. So I think it'll be interesting if Chelsea do appeal. It is a bit of a lottery with regard to the Football Association's disciplinary panel. A couple of weeks ago, we saw a case where it should have been thrown out. It didn't fulfill a reckless excessive force challenge. And then there was James Vardy, if you recall, who was sent off incorrectly, in our opinion, and that of a number of referees. But we saw the decision of the referee upheld by the FA. So it is a bit of a lottery. But my view is that Chelsea are wasting their time if they go to appeal.
Well, Keith, it's been really good to get your thoughts on all of this. Why don't you tell us a bit more about youaretheref.com just before you leave?
Well, it's a group of former referees at the very highest level who want to develop, educate and train referees around the world. This week, some of our team are out in Los Angeles critiquing referees as they're officiating and then delivering a number of workshops. We've done that in other countries as well. The site itself, what we've tried to do is include other stakeholders. So we have a weekly ref show where Alan Biggs will interview either a referee or assistant referee and a former manager or player. So we do that on a weekly basis. That's proving extremely popular. We have RefCam, which is a selected number of games where when the game is on television, we've got a former referee assessor sat in the studio delivering a minute-by-minute report on the referee's performance. And that will give, if you like, listeners and viewers an insight into the performance of the referee as the game is rolling out. We'll also say, look, he's losing a bit of control here. But our entire aim is to include all stakeholders and be honest. So we're not going to defend referees where we can't defend them. We'll try to promote the better referees. We'll be critical of organisations if we have to, if we see things not developing through. We've been very critical of the PGMOL here in England, the organisation that run referees. They don't have a succession plan in place, or it appears not to be in place. So the 17 professional referees that we've got are probably down to about 7 that are capable of taking every game. And some of those over the Christmas period were beginning to fatigue. And you know, we're dealing with referees who are generally in the mid-40s, late 30s, mid-40s range, and not players. So someone like Mike Dean, who had a horrible couple of games, got it dreadfully wrong, was clearly fatiguing. He'd had 5 games in December over the Christmas period, and unlike a player gets bussed or trained or flown to games, is chauffeured in effect. Our guy sits in a car and has to drive to every game. So it's a different kettle of fish, and therefore I think that the spread of appointments, the referees that we have, brings in a whole sort of dialogue in the future. Should we promote the idea of international referees coming in and refereeing the Premier League, and some of our referees going out and refereeing in Italy, Spain, or in America on an exchange basis, so that we can open up the number of quality referees that are officiating what is considered to be the Premier League, the best referee in the world, best league in the world, sorry.
Well, it's been amazing to get your thoughts this morning, Keith Hackett, former Premier League referee, talking to us courtesy of youaretheref.com. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Keith.
Pleasure. Thank you, Richard. Thanks.
So good to hear from Keith. Now, every single morning on Sportuccino, we have amazing guests. And on our last episode, we spoke to Michael McCann talking about discrimination in football. Here's the best bit of that interview.
Previously on Sportuccino. it's not giving a job to a black person because they are black. It is addressing these institutional barriers in the game, such as unconscious bias, such as the discrepancy in the statistics that you mentioned, by giving a black person an opportunity in an interview to impress someone who they wouldn't have got the chance to sit in front of. And I think most people in any career can relate to the fact that in an interview, you might not necessarily get that job, but if you impress that decision maker, you can build a relationship that means that they might recommend you to another chairman.
Comments coming in on the Facebook page. We've got Tim Elliott saying he loves the new look, Richard. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, thank you, Tim. Thanks for that. He also says Keith Hackett, great guest, really informative with very insightful views. I completely agree with that. If you enjoy this show, help support it by buying some merchandise from Sportuccino.com. I would really like it if you could do that. Now, some of the goals of this show is to educate, to entertain, and to inspire. And when I do my other podcast, The Best in the World with Richard Parr, one of the conversation topics which always comes up is goal setting. How we all want to set goals, be it short-term goals, long-term goals. Obviously, if they're Olympians, their goal is to become an Olympic champion. But I think we can set our own goals every single day to make ourselves a little bit better. And so that's what I want to do this year. So every single morning, or maybe the night before if I know what's coming up that day, I'm going to set myself a daily goal on Snapchat. And I'll play it for you. And I'm going to show you in just a moment what it is. But maybe you want to do the same. Maybe write down what your goal is for that day. Perhaps send us the video on Snapchat. Tell me what you think of this idea and see if it will help you. We'll see if it helps me. Here is the goal today. And then join us on Snapchat, follow us, add us on Snapchat, and you can find out if I complete that goal. But let's have a look at Monday's goal. Monday's goal of the day is to complete a 5-kilometer run on the treadmill in the gym. It's going to be pretty tough for me. It'll be the first time in 3 weeks that I've had to get up at 5 a.m. again. So if I just make it to the gym, it's a real achievement. So I'll be pleased if I can do 5K. Well, perhaps one of your goals is to travel. Now, I've been very lucky to have traveled to over 30 different countries. And along my way, I've been able to pick up a few pretty useful travel tips. And, you know, when you're in the sun, you feel great and you feel more healthy. So here is today's travel tip. Today's travel tip is to do cycle tours. I first did it when I went to Sydney in Australia. And in fact, it was only me and this old guy showing me around, but it was an amazing way to see the city. It's with a local who knows all of the best places to see. You get to see so much more than you would on foot, so much more than you would on an open top bus tour, even though I do recommend them. And you get a workout all in that same trip. It's really good, lasts a few hours, sometimes you get food involved. I've also done similar around New York, in the main park there in Central Park, being able to go all around there, really good, a good workout. You get to meet new people. That was a bigger group where I met people from around the world. So if you travel by yourself, it's great, but even if you're with people, it's definitely something I recommend. So today's travel tip is to do cycle tours. All right, we may have new features, but I know some of you love watching Sportuccino for our sports, health and fitness product reviews. And don't worry, it's still here on this show. Today we have got Lenny and Larry's The Muscle Brownie Baked Nutrition Peanut Butter Flavour. Let's have a quick look at what is the nutritional information on the back. So we have got 20 grams of protein in here, and we've got 25 grams of carbs, 10 grams of fat, 250 calories. That's quite a lot of calories for me, but it's a good intake of protein, 20 grams. Maybe a little bit too many carbs for my liking as well, but all right, crucially, does it taste any good? Let's open this up. Smells nice, smells very, very peanut buttery. And I like peanut butter, obviously. Again, if you have a nut allergy, this isn't one for you. Let's try it out. It isn't for me. It's a bit too stodgy. It's the peanut, there's only like little bits of the peanut butter around it. The rest of it is kind of that nougaty type feeling of a brownie. 0 sugar alcohols, less sugar, 20% daily fiber, fresh baked. Just going to get some water here. Pardon me, I don't want to choke again. So it's a good source of protein, maybe as a snack. Would I personally go and buy it? I don't think I would. So that is the review for the Lenny and Larry's The Muscle Brownie Baked Nutrition. Why don't you try it out and let me know what you think about it? All right, we've reached the end of the show, but let's have a quick reminder of our sports headlines just before we go. Liverpool's youngest ever team draw 0-0 at home to League 2 Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup. Chelsea to appeal John Terry's red card in the 4-1 win over Peterborough. A late Lionel Messi goal earns Barcelona a 1-1 draw at Villarreal in La Liga. And the Green Bay Packers beat the New York Giants 38-13 in the NFC wildcard game. Well, we barely got a moment to talk about some of the big upsets in the FA Cup. Bournemouth being knocked out by Millwall being one of them. What did you make of that? Maybe continue the conversation on our Twitter page at Sportuccino. Remember, if you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Please like our Facebook page and follow us on Periscope. We'd love for you to be involved in our community. It would be great to hear from you. On tomorrow's show, on Tuesday at 8 GMT, we're talking virtual reality and the future of sports broadcasting, all related to do with VR. We've got the former BBC sports correspondent and Times journalist who is now the CEO of Laduma VR. He's coming on the program to talk all things to do with virtual reality. If you've got any questions for him, put them in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you, and we will be back tomorrow morning from 8 GMT. We'll see you then. Goodbye.